so disciplined and quiet today. What's going on?
We're all just excited.
You're all just tuning in to the light of today, the light of Reb Shlomo's 31st Yahrtzeit. Okay, let's sing a little bit. Now this last week, I think I found like 9 new Reb Shlomo Nigunim because I just delved into the archive a bit more than usual. And literally, I found so many new songs. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. These Nigunim were mainly from the House of Love and Prayer, from the years 67 to 76, Mashu Kazeh. Every Nigun is. I'll teach you one of them. Okay, it's Mashu Kazeh. I don't remember it exactly, but I think I'm pretty close. It's slipping my mind 1 second. Try. So we're gonna continue learning. Leilei Nishmas Bas Yefega Bas Yisrael, Leilei Nishmas Levi Ben Yosef, and for the refuah shlema of Aliza Chana Bas Naomi, Shoshana Yona Bas Edel, and a big refuah shlema for Hila Bat Ilana. Hila Bat Ilana, please everyone have that name in mind. A very close, very good, and amazing person that needs a strong refuah shlema right now. So Chaver, just a very sweet Torah today. A short, sweet Torah from Reb Shlomo. And I was saying the whole week that this year, the way it comes out is the same when he passed away. Reb Shlomo passed away on a Thursday night. And Parshas Vayera passed away on the plane. It's a famous story. He was going from New York to Toronto. And he was sitting and singing. So he actually was in the middle of singing a Nigunim that he only would sing on Tisha B'Av. He never sang it other than Tisha B'Av. It's an old Hasidic Nigunim. It's a Skurlener Nigunim. Chasdei Hashem ki lo samnu ki lo chalu rachamav. We've sung it before. And when he got to the high part, Chasdei Hashem ki lo samnu ki lo chalu rachamav. Chasdei Hashem ki... That's when he had a stroke, and they brought the plane back. 69 years old. You know what's crazy is that Anu Yameinu Ketzel Oiver, our days are like a passing shadow, but the days itself could be very long. So even though it's like a passing shadow, the day itself can be very, very long. When a person loves, their days are much longer. When a person's heart is open, they have orech yamim. Not long, because he didn't have long orech yamim. He didn't live a long life. He didn't live a long life. He lived a very short life. So how could it be that so much was done in such a short amount of time? Because he loved. Poshet. When you love like that, when your heart is open like that, the day could last forever. There's nitzchius in a day. There's mamish nitzchius in a day. There's eternity in one simple day. So in the merit of the light that's coming down on this day, 31 years, I want to give us all a bracha that we should love, like, as cheesy as that may sound to some of you, but that's like the deepest thing in the world. That we could actually be people that love, and that our days are filled and infused with mamish, with real love. Then our days will also be very long, but we should also be zochet to have chaim arukim. We should have long life, Be'ez Hashem, very, very long life. And someone asked me this week, so tell me something, what is Reb Shlomo for you? And it's like the weirdest question, because I don't understand anything in my life without him, especially, Reb Shlomo is my shatchem. I met Bina because of Reb Shlomo. My children coming to the world started through that schus of him, and seeing, I only know any of you because of him. I wouldn't know anyone here. Even you, I wouldn't know. I only came to the yeshiva there in Ramat Gan because of him, right? Everything, every person in this room, everything that's in my life, besides obviously the parents and the siblings Hashem chose to place in me, but how He's also been mashpia on my parents' life and on my siblings. I think my brother's into Reb Shlomo a little bit too. It's a very, very beautiful thing. It's an amazing, beautiful light that I hope and pray that Be'ez Hashem, this mashpia shefarav on Al Am Yisrael. Earlier this week, I had an out-of-body experience. Not because of anything substance-free. Oh, some substance. There wasn't, maybe it was contact, but there was substance-free, as far as I know. because I was in Caesarea, and some of the chevra here were in Caesarea different nights. This last week, Hanan had shows there, and when he played Hashivenu in Caesarea, and then you know how on the recording he has Reb Shlomo starting to talk there, and all of Caesarea is in a trance of like Hashivenu Hashem Elecha, and then Reb Shlomo starts talking about freedom is a gift from heaven, only God can give it to you. And once God gives it to you, you could never take it away. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about how that came about. Before Pesach, I think, he asked me to send him some Torahs on Pesach. So I have a lot of them now translated into Hebrew. The Israeli chevra are the biggest Shlomo freaks. These guys, how long were you there yesterday?
I showed up at 8, thinking I missed it all, and they were at Shmakolino in...
At what? At 8?
p.m.
They started Mincha at 4:45 and they ended at 10?
Yeah.
These guys they put those hippies to shame in terms of like Mesiras Nefesh and everything. These guys this is the whole young chevra, they call me every day. They text me every day, all these kids. Every single day, I'm not kidding. So anyway, that's why the Torah first really through Hebrew. That's what's really gonna change the next shlav. So I must have sent him like 2 or 3 teachings, short teachings on Pesach, and one of the teachings really, really spoke to him. So he asked me, "Can you send me the recording of this in English? Can you send me the recording of it?" I said, "Yeah, but it's in English." And the piece I sent him was maybe 3 minutes of a teaching. I sent him the whole thing, about 40 minutes of it. And then he surprised me one day in the studio. He found the piece of audio. Months later, he said, "No, months later, he took that, those words that shook his to the core and placed it into the track that is now hundreds of thousands of people are listening to." But the out-of-body experience was that Reb Shlomo he opened his heart while he was teaching Torah in 1977 in New York. Who knows what's going to get to where? Kimat 50 years later, someone gets turned on because their heart's open and they love. And then hundreds of thousands of people are then continuing to receive because one man was courageous enough to love. Michal Shapiro. Michal Shapiro, you know Michal Shapiro, right? Bum 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 bum, right him? I should say, die, 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 right? Michal Shapiro. Right after Reb Shlomo passed, he was close to Reb Shlomo. Right after Reb Shlomo passed away, he said, I have this on tape, he says, I have this on an MP3 file, that the greatest thing he could say about Reb Shlomo is that he was a man of courage. He was the most courageous man he ever met. Why? Because to be able to love like that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage. We are walking around all day long with infinite amount of machsomim, all the time. They're already built in, sealed with nails in it. We already walk around with these how do you say machsom? Barriers, veils. And then sometimes there are people that just aren't. They just aren't. And they have to work so hard on themselves until they get to there. So you never ever know that what's the result of a moment of courage coming through love, coming through Talmud Torah. You never know when and where and how big it's going to explode into the world. You pashut never ever know these things. So that's why I want to give us a bracha on today, to have courage to love. And if we don't know what that means, to ask Hashem. And if we don't know what that means, to discuss it with the chaver. To discuss it with the chaver. To speak about it. To say, hey, do you also walk around with these barriers and, thinking that like no one really knows who you are and that you don't know anybody? And I think that if there's a place that's really suitable for this avodah to take place, then it's here in Shirat David. You have a place for it. Like you actually have a place. With all the other stuff that goes on, you actually have a place. So I want us to make the most of it, take advantage of it. Shlomo, Grab a chair from the base medrash. A few chairs if you don't mind. Thank you. Okay, so today's piece, the piece I'm sure many of you have seen over the years of learning Even Shlomo, a short piece based on Reb Nosson, based on the Likutei Halachos from Reb Nosson. And over here, what Reb Shlomo is going to be doing to us is taking us to the heart of the name Yitzchak. Why is Yitzchak's name Yitzchak, and what does it actually mean? The question is, did you ever have a moment in your life where you just started cracking up because you couldn't believe that something could actually be? Did it ever happen to you? Yeah. So everyone thinks that the pshat is that Sarah Imenu started laughing and she thought that everyone would laugh because they couldn't believe, they wouldn't be able to believe that at that age she could give birth. That's nice, that's pshat. But leave it to him to go through Remez, Josh, and Sod through this piece. Very, very short. Leilui Nishmas, Reb Shlomo ben Reb Naftali, Zchus Yagen Aleinu, V'al Kol Yisrael Amen. Okay. I think there's about, I made like 30. I know, Hashem, it's a lot of chevra today, so maybe one or two have to. Kibaltem? You guys got over here? Okay. As I always ask, don't read ahead, not because I want you to, I want to surprise you, but I actually want to learn this together, shlav by shlav. This is a Torah of Reb Nosson in Likutei Halachos, Hilchos Shabbos. By the way, it took a few years to find this, and I'll tell you why, because I changed the word here. Because he said, this is a Torah from Reb Nachman, because he would do that a lot when he would teach Reb Nosson, because it actually is true, but you can't find the source in Rabbi Nachman. So after about 2 years, we then said, wait a second, maybe it's in Likutei Halachos. So then we went to Likutei Halachos and found it there. It's a wild journey. Reb Nosson asks, why is it that when Yitzchak was born, it says, Kol hashomea Yitzchak li, anybody who hears of the birth was laughing and was mamish filled with joy. What is the inner reason behind this? There have always been thousands of babies born every day. Also the day that Yitzchak was born. And you could say that in a certain way, Yitzchak was better, maybe he was cuter, but that the whole world should start to laugh, this just doesn't make sense. What was so special about him? So this is what Reb Nosson says, I want you to open your hearts. There are two ways of reaching kedushah. One way, by consciously working on it very hard. This is a level of kedushah I can gain or I can lose. Each time I do a mitzvah, I get a little bit holier, and each time I make a mistake, I get a little less holy. That's true, that's one level. And this has to do more with the bechira, the choices I make in my life. Chevra, out of the text, look at me. I know there's a Yetzer Hara to keep on running when you know English. Trust me. I could just send this to you in an email, you could do it at home, but trust me. It's the biggest fisfus, trust me. Because if we believe, if we breathe this in and believe this, it's a completely different experience of going through this world. There is a kedushah. There's a kedushah that's be'emet talui on how hard I work. It depends on how good I am or how bad I am, and based on that, it goes up and it goes down. This more is what Rabbi Nachman refers to as to have bekiyas, to be baki, berotzai, baki, b'shov. You have to have bekiyas, you have to know how to get up, you have to know how to walk, you have to know how to fall, and you have to know how to get up. That's a real thing. We're not discrediting it. Like each of us has to work on that every single day. The fact that you came here on a Friday morning, regardless of whatever's going on in your life, and you chose to daven, you chose to learn, you chose to be with Chevra, that means that place of Kedusha in us, that place is getting stronger. That's getting stronger, that's being accelerated. And that's a very real world of Kedusha that we're constantly working on all the time. However, that's just half of the story. There's a completely different story going on as well. You could call it now the Nefesh Elokis. You could call it the Pintel Yid. There's a lot of different ways you could call it, or just how he's going to present it to us. But then there's another kind of Kedusha, which has nothing to do with how much I work on it or not. It's the kind of kedushah God gave me when I was born, which is untouchable. Untouchable. You can't touch it. No one can touch it. It's there. It's always there. It was always there, and it will always be there. It's a kedushah. It's not just a nice thing. It's a holiness. You look around this room. Each person here has it. Machmas hibaram. That means, just by the mere fact that you exist, you have this next level of kedusha. The first level of kedusha, you don't necessarily have it because you're alive, because maybe you buried it, maybe you forgot about it, maybe you neglected it. This second thing is mashu acher legamre. It can be hidden, completely covered with dirt and filth, but it's the kind of kedusha that no one can take away from me. Even my own actions can't take it away from me. I can do everything wrong in my whole life, but the inside remains so holy. Now, that's beautiful to believe about ourselves, but you know it's so hard when you see someone that acts like such a schwanz, that's like such a, like such a behema gasa, that really has taken on, all the... Whatever, I'm going to stop now, but you could, because there's a lot. The heart, listen, the heart is wide open, so therefore you don't know. You have to, you could kick me. You could kick me if I'm going to go a little bit off. But you see people, you wonder, like Ribono Shel Olam, were you sure about this one? Was it takala? Was this kind of something that messed up in the in the manufacturing of the souls going into bodies? This seems like much more kangaroo material or I don't know what. And the whole avodah is that you have enough courage to love that person so that you could see this second level of kedusha, but much more importantly, that they could see it. That they could see it. Because it exists. I have to first of all believe that it exists. Not just that I love them because it's a mitzvah, kol Yisrael arivim zelazeh, hareini mekabel alai mitzvah saseh. Okay, it's a mitzvah saseh to love, so I'm going to love. That's a nice stark way of approaching Torah. But to actually believe that this second kedusha exists within every person that you meet, every yid that you meet, that takes a lot of courage. Because we've been let down so much in life. We've been disappointed so often. And it scares the daylights. It just scares us. And we're just like, you know what? For the sake of my safety, I'm sure you're fine. You're gewalt. Stay far away. You could still have certain people stay far away, but don't believe for 1 second that because you're keeping them away from you, that they don't have this second type of kedusha. And I'm talking about the people that everyone's so fast to call them Erev Rav today. That's been the greatest hana people have today, last few years. The whole we've spoken about this. Everyone became a mumcha in declaring who's Erev Rav. This whole olam's Erev Rav. That chevra is Erev Rav. Those people that go to that hafgana, they must be Erev Rav. And then you're left with 2 minyanim of people that aren't Erev Rav. And usually they sound and look just like you. And then you have to stop for a second and be like, is that really what I've been doing? Yes. Yes. You don't think someone that does things that seem completely contradictory to what you believe to be right doesn't have this kedusha elamai? It's covered in filth. He's still alive. I'm not going to mention his name because most of you have heard of him. A very, very big philanthropist. I believe he's still alive. And Reb Shlomo he brought him into the fold. He brought him into Yiddishkeit. And eventually he left Reb Shlomo. He couldn't stay, he couldn't, it wasn't, he said something wasn't flowing for him. So they asked him once, why did you leave? So he said, because I was basically at a place that I needed him to tell me exactly what to do in life. And he was never telling me exactly what to do. He was just speaking in broader terms, right? Now, the guy also left Yiddishkeit to a certain extent, even though he's very involved in a lot of very important Jewish-ish, dagesh on the ish projects. And I found a video that I always wanted to send him, but I didn't have enough courage. Maybe this Yahrtzeit will give him courage, and then maybe we can finish the shul. I don't know. We'll see. I need like shliach azus de kedusha for these things, you know. So in the video, Reb Shlomo is asked, "What's your shita? What's your shita when it comes to people, to the youth and everything?" And he says, "I'm very big on never telling anybody what to do." He says this. Why? He says, because most kids ran away from the worlds of families and schools that told them exactly what they to do. They don't need me to tell them also what to do. But I believe, he said, that in their neshama, they all know what to do. And all I'm trying to do is to connect them to that place inside of them that already knows what to do. So I was thinking about that because when you have access to the type of kedushah that you're born with, right? That's the place that knows exactly what to do in life. And the real tzaddikim, like there was a sign outside the Beis Medrash in Mezrich by the Magid. We've learned this many times. The sign was basically saying, it's going to paraphrase that, we're not here to teach you anything you don't know already. We're just here to connect you to the place that knows. That does know. That's connecting through the second level of kedushah. Inherent kedushah that no one can touch, no one can take away from you. Okay, so back inside, third to bottom paragraph. So Reb Nosson says the most amazing thing, most unbelievable thing. Until Yitzchak was born, the only way to become holy was by working hard. It was the first level of kedusha. Until Yitzchak was born, till the first Jewish baby was born, if someone was holy, Ela told us Noach ish tzaddik. Why? Because he worked on it. And anytime there's righteousness until Yitzchak Avinu is coming into the world, the kedusha emanated from a place of avoda, of work. Again, until Yitzchak was born, the only way to become holy was by working hard. But you know what Yitzchak brought down to the world? Yitzchak brought down to the world that you're born holy. You see, until Yitzchak was born, babies came, they were cute and everything, but there was no inherent kedusha just because they exist. It was all dependent on how much they work, which is a very Western, concept of measuring success, right? Measuring success. When this was revealed in the world, that you're born holy, the whole world suddenly began laughing. Something happened to the world that from now on, children are born holy. What could you do besides break out in laughter? That's why I asked you before, these moments of you have this ha'ara of something, and you're just you can't believe it's true, but you see it to be real, you start cracking up. You just start laughing. This is what the inyan was, Kol HaShameh Yitzchak Li. Anyone that hears that a baby isn't born to a 90-year-old woman, that's one level. That's pshat. Sod, or sod probably I'd say, is that what? That you're born, it wasn't about Sarah giving birth to Yitzchak. It was about who Yitzchak was and what he brought to the world. That children are born with kedushah. And he's going to explain how this works. You see what it is. Avraham worked himself up to such a level of kedusha that when Yitzchak was born, he inherited all his kedusha from Avraham Avinu. That even if he didn't do anything yet, he was already holy. But this is the key. What produced this second level of kedusha? But can you imagine how much holiness, work, and prayer Avraham and Sarah had to do? Now you understand. Can you imagine why it took so long to have a son like Yitzchak? Now we understand why. You have to understand something, Chavra. What he's saying in this paragraph, the Rebbes would say, it would take them sometimes 20 pages to say. I'm not kidding. So open your heart and listen to these words. Can you imagine why it took so long to have a son like Yitzchak? What was the inyan that it took Avraham Avinu 100 years, Sarah Imenu 90 years? Let's say they were married for how many years? They didn't get married in their late, at a shidduch crisis in mid-30s. They finally decided, this is probably much younger. It's irrelevant. The age, though, why did it take so long? Because he says here, to have a little baby. that will work himself up later on in life and eventually reach God, for that you don't have to wait 100 years and pray so much. But to bring down a baby who will bring this holiness into the world, it took 100 years. The whole inyan of the Leda, of the birth of the first Jew, had to be two people that worked so hard on which level of kedushah? The first, because they didn't have the second. Avraham and Sarah, as holy as they weren't born as Yidden, but they were the two people that worked the most on themselves than any two human beings did in the first 2,000 years of the world. They worked on themselves so hard through many different ways that the Torah alludes to us. They worked themselves so hard, ben adam lamakom and ben adam lachavero, non-stop, day and night, till what? Till they produce something that's called Yitzchak. Because it's too deep to fathom that a baby, like we were learning by Rav, which sefer was by the women's shir? Who was it? The Bilvavi, no? Rav Schwartz, Rav Itamar Schwartz said this, one of the pillars of the world is that very responsible, older and mature and successful people will get such hana, such enjoyment and laughter and simcha by looking at a gush of chomer, a clump of bones and limbs that's done nothing in the world other than keep us up at night and have us change diapers. They're not even smiling at you at that age, right? And yet what? It brings out something so big. Why? Because subconsciously, when you look at a Jewish baby, you had a bris, you had a simchas. But by the way, Mazel Tov, Emo Abramchik had a baby girl middle of the night. Yeah, Baruch Hashem, more and more children. So you look at it. It brings out something in you. You're not even aware. You can't even believe that it's like this. And the real ones give the utmost covet to children. One of the times last week, someone asked me, when did Reb Shlomo ever get mad? So there were like 2 or 3 times that there was like bishita things. He would get mad. He would get mad when people would talk during Zmiras at the Shabbos table. That was like a Yeharagu Bal Yavar. If someone was hitting his child, the famous story, the stairway in the Larome, in Baal Hotel, where he saw a father hitting his son. That was a wild scene. When people were hitting children, that he had no... One time in the Moshav, he heard that someone was hitting the child. Wow, my God. And then the third time was, of course, when a missionary would come into the room and try doing his thing. That's the recordings where you hear him screaming, freaking out, and you think it's not him. Nachon. You think it's not him. He starts cursing the guy. Damn you! Screaming. That button, that Yiddish button. But then there was this other time that when you didn't give cover to children, there was a bris. It was a bris of our dear friends, the Futtermans. And while the baby was being brought, or maybe right after, but they're all in shul, the sandak's there, the mayos there, the parents are there, and they're singing Nigunim, but some chaver thought, I haven't seen you in a while, Shalom Aleichem. And he stopped and he said, Chevra, I only judge people based on how much cover they give to babies and to children. That's the only based on that is how I judge people. What other rabbi speaks like that? What other person talks like that? And he was serious. I could send you the video. Serious, like it's Yom Kippur Ne'ilah, right? Now, maybe you could say, because what he's really meaning, when he says, I judge people based on how much cover they give to children, means I judge people based on how much they give cover to the second type of kedushah. To the second type of kedushah. So when we go home and we see our children, we see ourselves, we see whoever it is, it's a tikkun of all tikkunim if the second type of kedushah is something we daven to Hashem, not just to be connected to more and more and realize about ourselves, so that we could cut ourselves slack of self-persecution, but also that when I look at people, the second type of kedusha is what I see first, and then the second type of kedusha. The first type of kedusha is perhaps what I pay attention to second. If that's the order of things, we're good. We're really good. Ken Yiratzon v'naimar amen. Good Shabbos, everybody. Shkoyach.